Hello everyone, and welcome back to my Road to 300,000 Gamerscore series. This series in which I try to earn achievements to count towards Gamerscore and earn a total of 300,000 Gamerscore by the end of 2024. As you can see from the title, today I will be playing 007 GoldenEye. Now before I started loading up the game and actually playing it, I just sat on the main screen listening to the nostalgic music. I don't know how many of you played this game on the Nintendo 64, but growing up I had one. I still have one today, and yes, I do have the actual GoldenEye for Nintendo 64, but listening to that music come through the Xbox while I'm playing it's a really great feeling and brings back a lot of great memories. So that was the first thing I did when I loaded up GoldenEye. After I got tired of listening to the main menu and decided to get to work on the achievements, I had a few options. I could play through each mission, getting on all three difficulties and getting the achievements associated with that level, or I could just play through the entire game first. I decided to play through the entire game. The reason you have to play through multiple times is in this game, achievements related to level difficulty do not stack, so you have to play the game on agent difficulty, which is easy, secret agent difficulty, which would be considered normal, and double O agent difficulty, which is considered hard. Neither one of these, or well, all three of these weren't too difficult of gameplay. However, I just wanted to enjoy the game by playing through agent my first time around. There are 18 different levels, or main story levels. Once you complete these and you complete all of the side quests or speed runs, I believe is what most of them had, you then unlock 2 DLC maps, and those 2 maps as well have achievements related to just completing them. After I completed my agent difficulty playthrough of the entire game, it was time for me to start back over at level 1, and while I was starting at level 1, it was time for me to beat this level now on secret agent difficulty, double O agent difficulty, as well as making sure that I completed the speed runs for each level. Each speed run for each level unlocks multiple secrets, and these secrets typically pertain to the multiplayer gameplay, unlocking maybe different game modes, different maps, and items like that. Each speed run for each level is a little bit different. Some levels require you to do a speed run on agent difficulty, so that would be on the easiest difficulty. Some require you to do it on secret agent difficulty, which this is just a normal difficulty, and others require you to complete it on double O agent difficulty, which this one can take a lot more effort and can be a little bit more troublesome than the speed runs on agent difficulty, for instance. The speed runs for the most part weren't too difficult. They were pretty easy, pretty lenient on their times, honestly. For the most part, I don't think you would fail them for not completing the time. The only times you would fail them would be if you died. I remember for the most part, the ones I struggled on weren't because I was unable to complete it within the time frame. It was more I was struggling to make it through without dying. If many of you haven't played this game or are unsure how the health system works, you don't earn health back in this game, so if you're shot early on, you don't get to regenerate your health, which is something that I had to become accustomed to because most games don't have that. But like I was saying, most of these speed runs aren't too difficult. Lots of times, if you just run past the enemies, they won't even shoot at you. And I know you could think that on agent difficulty, that's the only time it would happen. But I found that sometimes on double O agent difficulty, that if you're just running fast enough, or there's a mechanic, instead of using the analogs, which most of us use our analogs, you can use the D-pad. Like there's a feature, if you go into the D-pad, it helps you strafe, which is like a side movement. You go a lot faster, so you can actually just zoom past enemies, and most of the time they won't even be able to shoot you. most of the AI aren't even intelligent. Even when you're on 00 agent difficulty, they'll pretty much miss most of their shots and you can kill them quite fast. There's nothing really too difficult about it. So I didn't find the speed runs too difficult. It was more just making sure that I didn't take too much damage before I got to the end. Because overall the time frame wasn't difficult at all. You could easily fly through these. There were really quick ways to complete the game. It was just more knowing and understanding the objectives in each one. I found occasionally that those could also play a factor into my speedrun, as the more difficult you play, typically the more objectives you have to complete. After I completed the speedruns for each level, as well as completing each level on the additional 2 difficulties, netting me those final achievements on my main story, they unlocked my DLC maps, or DLC levels, and these 2 levels also had difficulty related achievements as well as speedruns. So you had to go into these levels and complete their own speedruns, which this is where they actually became difficult. Before, I hadn't had any problems with the speedruns. However, one of these levels proved to be a little bit more troublesome than the others. The level that was the most difficult was the actual first DLC level that you unlock, and this level was called Aztec. I'm not quite sure why it was so difficult. I'm not sure if it was just they bumped up the AI difficulty on this specific level, or maybe it's because it felt like they were non-stop spawning. It just felt like their shots were hitting a little harder and I couldn't avoid them as easily as I can, or as easily as I could throughout the rest of the game. So that took me a lot longer than the rest of the game. I would say my first playthrough of the entire game took just as long as it took for me to complete Aztec. I was struggling with it. I could not... The times I would survive, I would struggle to beat the time. Me pushing myself to beat the time, I would die super fast. I don't know why it was. This level just proved to be the most difficult level for me, and I know when I was looking at the achievements related to this level, a lot of people said that this was also their toughest speedrun and their toughest level to beat. Following the completion of Aztec and beating it on the highest difficulty, as well as the speed run, I went into the final DLC map and completed this on the story mode. This one also had a speed run related to it. It was a lot easier. You unlock the golden gun in this level and you just get a sprint through. It's super fast. Nothing really stops you, even on the hardest difficulty. Since the golden gun is a one-shot, it makes everything a lot easier and you just kind of fly through the level. Nothing too difficult about that final DLC map. So once I was completed with the story and the DLC maps, it was time for me to go in multiplayer. Which multiplayer was the last thing to do, because to get all the achievements related to multiplayer, you needed to unlock a bunch of features of multiplayer, and you couldn't do that until you played through all the difficulties and speedruns of the story. The multiplayer achievements weren't really too difficult. Most of those were just playing a game mode on every single map. Some of those included the type of fight you wanted to do, whether it was a 1v1, maybe a 1v2, a 2v2, maybe you wanted a 1v3. I don't know why you would want that, but that was a feature. Also, different weapons you could use. Maybe you wanted just knives only. Maybe you wanted the historical golden gun. Maybe you wanted pistols only. Maybe you wanted knives. A funny one that I remember was you could do slaps only. So some of these achievements related to the different modes you were playing. Others included playing every single map. And the one that took the longest was to defeat 100 enemies. Now, I thought at first that I could just create 4 characters, and I would be able to control them. However, I wasn't able to control every single one, and I was only able to control one additional enemy besides my own character. And I spent about 40 to 45 minutes walking around looking for that person in a map, defeating them, and then it would work its way to 100 enemies defeated in the game on multiplayer, which it didn't take too long, but it is quite boring. I think it would have been a lot more fun had I had an additional 3 friends and we were running around the map, you know, defeating each other. I think that would have just been a lot of fun. After I completed defeating 100 enemies on multiplayer, I had officially 100%ed GoldenEye 007. This was just a great overall perfection / achievements. I thoroughly enjoyed the game. It brought me back to my childhood and playing it. Honestly, it was just really fun. I don't have any bad things to say about it. I highly recommend it to everyone. I really think it would be something to play. And yes, the achievements, super easy, nothing too difficult. However, I recommend doing what I did, where you play through the entire game on easy difficulty and just enjoy the simplicity of this game. It's not even super simplistic when you think about it. There were sometimes there could be 5 objectives in one of the missions, but I think COD, for the most part, is you're just running from point A to point B. But in GoldenEye, you have to maybe blow up some items, maybe you have to save someone, maybe you have to hack a computer. There's so many different things for this older game, in theory. It honestly made you remember how games used to be and how much the developers really started to care about the product that they had, and they cared about the story and just how fun they can make it be. I just highly recommend it. Great game, great story, great gameplay. It took me a while. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see any of my shots, but it took me a long time, and I mean a long time, to get used to the controls and how you aimed. I struggled a lot, even holding left trigger and trying to aim down the sights. That took me a long time. It just wasn't the best for me. This concludes my 4th episode in my Road to 300,000 Gamerscore series. I'm falling a little bit behind. Work's gotten a little bit busier with 1099 starting to crank up before the deadline on January 31st. So I'm hoping that eventually I can get work back under control and kick it back into gear. Overall, though, I appreciate everyone stopping by. I look forward to the upcoming games. I hope that you are enjoying the games. I know that there's a big variety. We started with football, then we went to Madagascar 2, and then to trivia, and now we're with GoldenEye, a little first-person shooter. I will say, though, our next game is going to stay in the first-person shooter genre. I don't really know how to give a hint for this one. It's not a really common game, and honestly, it's not a game that apparently a lot of good reviews have, but I'm looking forward to it. I just enjoy playing video games, and sometimes having a new video game, even though I loved GoldenEye 007, having a new game occasionally just sparks it back to life and makes you want to play even more, and you're excited to get home, you're excited to turn that console back on, and you're just excited to play some video games. So once again, thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope you have a great one, and I look forward to the next game in the series, and I hope that you stick around and look for it as well. Thank you.